Welcome to the Good Fight podcast. I'm your host and TGF editor, Jason Langendorf. And today we're again joined by TGF contributor Lucas Cattell. Lukey, how you doing?
Thank you.
Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I wanted to do a stupid intro. I didn't really know what to say today,
Right.
so this is gonna be my gimmick, was to do like something like that.
Just,
I
just making
dropped the
sure.
ball.
We
Yeah,
we had
yeah. I
some
was trying to do something different.
we had some technical difficulties coming in, so just wanted to make sure we were hearing each other. Sorry to blow the
I
bit.
tried to cool guy you and how cool a guy I am. I tried to do something cool, and the immediate response is, "You having any tech issues, bro?"
You freaking out? What's wrong? No, we're good. We're good. Okay, so it's Thursday, August 20th, and we missed last week. So we've got some boxing on the docket, and we're ready to jump into it. So we'll start with Claressa Shields, who pushed her record to 19-0, scored only her fourth knockout of her career, and grabbed yet another belt, a middleweight title, with a sixth round stoppage of Kay Scott last weekend. And at least as interesting as all that, I think, was the show drawing 16, 18,000, something along those lines, but pretty much filling up the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. And we know a lot of that is owed to Shields herself, but it kind of made me wonder if there are some other cities or locales that maybe boxing doesn't visit very often that could draw, uh, could put on a great show under the right circumstances. We've seen it kind of duplicated in some place like Omaha, and I think you're going to need a Crawford or a Shields or somebody like that to sort of make it happen. But again, Shields is from Detroit, so for her to fill it up in Atlanta, just kind of an interesting little thing. But I wondered, Lukey, if you had any thoughts, if there was any place you would like to see, boxing land with a good fight, or any particular fighter.
Well, the Bay Area, of course, we don't get any, but I think Michigan would be a place I'd like to see. Like they got big pretty much anywhere where there's an SEC football going on, I think is a great place for boxing. Like when SEC football isn't happening, but everyone's like, I got to go to wherever it's cheapest and free. I'd like to also say with Shields' fight, I think part of that number too is that there were like some Ray J versus Orlando Brown. One's a musician. They do big numbers on the internet and interviews. Some character named Big Lex fought. I think there was a bigger than we understand appeal for those fights on the undercard as well. And I think there's a genius to like picking and choosing your battles, putting good pro fights on, but then having some novelty attractions that fill the building. And I think that's part of also how Shields got that number, was those were some fights that I think were can't miss fights. But to answer your initial question, because I tried to Bernard Hopkins you and answer it with what I wanted to answer, is I would like to see Michigan, which I think is an underrated state in the US. And I'd like to see, Louisiana, Alabama. Let's go to Kentucky. What happens in Kentucky?
What cities are we talking about, though? What cities do you have in mind? Are you thinking, when you say Michigan, do you mean Ann Arbor?
Yeah, let's start in Ann Arbor. I mean, let me get on my Michigan. Let's get on my Michigan grind. Let's do a geography, Lukey. There's different areas because at one time they called me Mr. Michigan. It's not right now, but like, what's a city that has Lake Michigan in the background? What's a city that could have a sports arena where Lake Michigan could be in play?
Well, there's my Chicago, but we've been down that road. Chicago keeps blowing it every time they get a good fight or an opportunity.
But isn't part of the problem with Chicago that like for a long time that they just would put a Polish fighter there and they wouldn't just bring a fight there?
Well, there's definitely been an effort to appeal to certain communities there. So, big Polish community, big Hispanic community. They definitely are trying to do that whenever they have a local fighter. A few years ago, it was Andres Fanfara. You had some other guys from Garfield Park. Oh shoot, I can't remember his name off the top of my head now, but a lot of guys fighting out of the same gym. Joshua Greer, uh,
The Broke team, right?
yeah, the
Ed
Broke team.
Brown's
Right,
crew.
Ed Brown's group, exactly. So there were a few of those guys that were coming up, and they'd feature those guys, but um, e- e- there was a well. This is actually kind of thematic right now. There was a big card there. I want to say it's been almost 10 years now. Um, it was Usyk's first fight at heavyweight. He fought Chaz Witherspoon, and that was the same card on which Charles Conwell fought Patrick Day, and Day passed away in the days afterwards. Um, Not to say that that necessarily had an effect on Chicago boxing, but it just seems like every time there's sort of an opportunity there, something happens. This last time around, I'd gotten word that the commission had not treated who did Oscar Duarte fight?
Kenny Sims?
Chicago. Yes, Sims. So he had not been treated very well. There had been some complaints about that. Yeah, and it seems like Chicago would be a great town for boxing. That's the third biggest city in the country. Believe it still is. Um, there's definitely an appetite. Again, you've got a huge Hispanic community, different communities that have generally been, you know, been excited about boxing. I just they haven't, for whatever reason, hasn't stuck there. But I will say, I mean, you can start getting creative. I mean, if you're talking about like you know, Lake Michigan in the background, and we're talking about Michigan, if you know your Michigan very well, that coast all along up the coastline of Michigan, there's a bunch of these resort towns. You could pick an off weekend uh, during the year to do something on the beach that I think, would attract a massive crowd. You'd get everybody from Chicago, you'd get up everybody from Indianapolis and some of the other nearby Midwest, Detroit, nearby Midwest cities. But then it would be a destination, um, and I'm sure there's a lot of infrastructure issues there. It might be difficult to pull off, but boxing's got to figure out a way to make itself more interesting. And if we're gonna put on a bunch of weird novelty fights, you might as well start thinking outside of the box in some of these other ways.
So I got more cities for you. Charleston, South Carolina.
Mm.
Just selfishly, I love Charleston. I think it's an underrated city. I
Great
think
food.
that would be there's lots of colors. So
Mhm.
great photo week. You can put the boxers on Rainbow Row, isn't that? So there'd be cool things there. I feel like Charleston's the type of place where there'd be a lot of people that would just show up to see a fight. They'd be like, we
Yeah.
haven't seen a fight that's on TV. So I think that would be a big one. Let's go with Lewiston, Maine. That's a pretty cool one. Maine doesn't get a lot of action. That's the second largest city based on a thing. Lexington, Kentucky. That's where I would like to see a fight. And then wherever, I'm trying to think, what is it? Where's Alabama University located in Auburn?
Auburn? Or are you talking about Alabama?
Well, either of them. Aren't they like right between each other? They're like within a 40-mile radius.
So Alabama's Tuscaloosa, Auburn. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not Birmingham. Hold on, I'll look it up while you're riffing. Let's see.
But I mean, I just think that the SEC has such a great approach to college football that if we could get some tie-in of someone that trains at a university that has some thematic element with Florida, with Alabama, with some of these sports, right? There's a huge fan base. They fill up 100,000 seats. If you could get 10% of those fans to be invested in one fighter, that's a big boxing market. And I think that right now, the problem with boxing is I think it's treated like a corporation, that people are like, we need a New York City fighter, we need a West Coast fighter, we need a Vegas fighter. And I really think that those markets aren't really calling for boxing right now. They're not as excited unless there's an organic fighter. And I think that some of these smaller novelty areas would be a big hit.
Yeah, and I looked it up. I can't believe I don't remember this, but Auburn is actually a city in Alabama. Um, no, I think you could appeal to an SEC type an SEC type fan base, particularly if you do it during the off season. Give them a reason to come out to the stadium on another night, and when it's not hot as balls in some of these SEC stadiums on like a Saturday afternoon. Um, and I do think, especially the novelty of it, can actually attract more because as much as we all love the Garden, as much as people dig the War Grounds, and there are certain places that are sort of known for like we're going to get a show here, we're going to get another one coming up soon. Um, I think when you make it an event and it's something, it's the same idea with the SEC in football and to a certain extent basketball. Most of these cities don't have their own pro team. So those schools and their programs become their pro teams. So if there are enough sports fans to support, 100,000 seat, whatever, 80,000, 60,000 seat stadium for Saturday football, you got to figure they can pack 20,000 in, close some of the stands and put on a good show. They did that actually, ironically enough, they did that in Chicago, at White Sox Stadium 10 or 15 years ago. I went to that one and it was really interesting. It was well done. I know it was a little bit of a cluster. They had a lot of issues to try to like get it to pull it off, but the folks over at Friday Night Fights back when I was at ESPN, they're always hustling and finding a way. I think you got to do things like that to start to appeal to a wider audience that otherwise isn't really going to be stumbling across boxing organically on its own.
Yeah, ideas matter.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. It's looking more and more like if it happens at all, it's going to be staged in the U.S. rather than the U.K. Matchroom promoter Eddie Hearn has called that disappointing and is kind of putting it on Netflix and Turkey Al Sheikh. But it really doesn't matter who's to blame, I think, in this case. It just seems like it's another case of boxing turning what should be a gift into kind of a lump of coal. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Lukey?
Do you want my real thoughts?
Absolutely.
Like, are we really excited about this fight in 2026?
You and I?
I mean, most logical people, like, I feel like this is kind of like a non-story that's being made into a story. I get it sucks if you're British because you probably care more and it's going to be on at a really inconvenient time. But it's like, this is not like a great fight. And it's like, people are like, oh my God, we're getting it. It's like Usyk Fury for Undisputed. This is not a great fight. This is, two guys who are pretty famous. I feel like Fury's always been better than Joshua. And it's like being packaged as like this amazing thing. And now there's this controversy over the venue. And to me, my life is good with or without it. Like it's not like that big of a deal, but I think that it's going to be like the just saying stuff fight where Dana White says stuff to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn says stuff. They're doing it over here. There's going to be a lot of business reports around this fight. And then the fight itself is going to suck. I don't know. I guess it would have been cool if they put it in a big soccer stadium, football stadium, and like everybody gets to sing some songs and you get to see Fury beat Joshua. But like, also, let's put it into context. This is like watching Expendables. It's two old guys.
And I think it's a little bit of a state of affairs in boxing. I mean, that this is what we're talking about right now, and it's the same thing as when Tyson, Jake Paul, this, that, and the other, Floyd Mayweather. To me, it's an indication that boxing isn't doing enough to sell its product, that it's living off of nostalgia or its old stars. Um, I mean, I do think that there's some interest there because you're talking about heavyweights. So there's always the threat of, a big knockout, big punches. And I mean, I think you want to see two giant elephants jump in the ring together and slosh around a little bit. And when you've got two former undisputed heavyweight champs doing that, and because yes, they're both British fighters, it's going to be a big deal to some people. Bill Detloff, one of our contributors, wrote a story not too long ago. I think the title was something along the lines of, uh, "Hell yes, I'll watch Fury, Joshua, and you will too." Um, I think that's a pretty fair sentiment, and you know, it comes down to like, well, okay, if that fight's not on, what else are you going to do with your Saturday night? What are the other fights that they're going to put on that I'm going to watch? Um, I do think it's getting a little too much attention. I do think there's the big interest around it is, as you said, kind of the business. It's Netflix. It's where's the fight going to be? What's it going to draw? Are the Brits going to travel? Of course they are. You know, I guess some of that stuff's fun to knock around a little bit, but I'm with
I'd
you.
argue this, Jason. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, go for it.
that the big story to me is this fight's not on DAZN.
Mm.
And the DAZN is now signing fighters like Teofimo Lopez. And did Devin sign with DAZN? Is that official or is that hearsay?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
I don't know. So we'll just say Teofimo because he doesn't have a fight date. But it's the story to me is that a fight of this magnitude, Joshua was typically a DAZN fighter. Fury's been with various places. But the fact that this fight is ending up not on DAZN, but on Netflix, I think that the more interesting story to me, which I just poo-pooed the business of boxing, let me get into the business of boxing now, is where does Turkey Al-Sheikh fit into all of this? Where does Zuffa Boxing fit into all of this? And where did the old guard that now is on DAZN fit into all of this? Because we're in this landscape where it's like there's this huge power struggle to where things are going. And I mean, we'll watch Fury Joshua because it's something to do when we spent like 20 years with him. But I think the more fascinating conversation is what does this mean and what precedent does this set for future fights? Are guys going to try to wait out their contracts and land these things? What becomes the new normal because of this fight and the relationships?
Yeah, it's just I think it goes back to what we were talking about a moment ago. We're in a weird place in boxing right now, and I think could wind up going a lot of different directions. Um, so smaller news, much smaller news. Floyd Mayweather Promotions has partnered with Jimmy Adams Country Box, which is a regular club show that's put on every couple of weeks in Nashville. Again, it's not the biggest headline, but I know I'm intrigued by it. I lived in Nashville for a year not too long ago. Attended a couple of country box shows, and they were a lot of fun. You're not going to see the biggest name fighters or the best records, but there were some good fights. There were some up and comers, and they make it a good time. They've got live music, and they kind of play around with things down there that you won't see at kind of a David Benavidez fight in T-Mobile.
Curtis Harper hitting the prop guitar.
That's right. That's right. So the thing that's interesting to me is that Mayweather obviously is in need of developing his roster if his promotion is going to kind of ever really achieve full liftoff. Country Box is moving into this new venue, the Plaza Mariachi. And Nashville's a booming town. It just keeps growing. And of course, there's, a steady flow of bachelorette parties and Lord knows what else, people that are there every weekend. And I've had an opportunity to talk to people here and there about it. It's the kind of thing that could continue to grow with the right kind of promotion, with the right kind of people involved. I don't know. It's something that I'm interested. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about, the kind of growing boxing, finding new ways to do that, finding new venues for it. I don't know. Have you ever been to Nashville? Have you ever been to country box at all,
Yeah,
Bruce?
I just went there. You won't believe it. I drank beer in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird, and I saw some country music. The stereotype.
That's shocking.
Um, yeah, that bet you wouldn't have expected that one. I was there during St. Patrick's Day. I remember. I won't even say the story. Um, what's like what is Mayweather Promotions to start this segment? Like who is signed to Mayweather Promotions? Do we know?
Is Carmel Moton still involved with Mayweather? I mean, who's his best fighter right now?
I don't like I assume Cremill's with him. I've been trying for like 2 years to get a hold of Cremill because he's like a really fascinating needle mover that I feel like should probably get more exposure, and it's not very easy to get a hold of Cremill.
Hmm.
And maybe Dorian Kahn might be with Mayweather. Ashton Silva, I believe, is with MVP now, or not MVP. He was with MVP. He's with Misfits Boxing. They all kind of bleed together in that world. Um, I don't know. Why don't you talk and I'll try to do half baked research to see if there's even a website right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. It's obviously Mayweather is going to reach a point where even his novelty fights, him climbing into the ring, it, it's not going to be a thing. Um, there is a shelf life on how long he's going to be able to do that. And if the money problems that he's encountering now aren't somehow solved, and it sounds like he might be digging himself a bigger hole with some of these things that he's doing. Um, the fight with Pacquiao. Don't know if that's happening anymore. The fight with Tyson, we're not sure if that's happening anymore. And sounds like he's spending some of the money that he was contracted
Probably shouldn't.
to
Yeah.
fight, and in advance. And like I said, he may just be digging himself a bigger hole. Um, I don't know how many other ways he's going to kind of make up that kind of money uh, aside from being a promoter. And you would think with his cachet and with his name and with the infrastructure supposedly already there, that would be easy enough to do. He would be able to sign some good fighters, but we also know that despite his nickname, he has not been the most financially stable guy either.
I think that look, I just did a research. Kamari Burnside, who I'm not familiar with, um, is on his thing. A fighter I called a fight of. My last fight I called Abdullah Kadard is with him. I ate a piece of pizza with him in the hotel lobby after the fight too. That's a fun fact. Looking super burnout, drinking a few Bud Lights. Um, but like I think the issue is with Country Box, and maybe Mayweather Promotions can help with this. They typically match some good fights, but then they have some fights that just aren't very good. They just have some like records that aren't high level. So really for Country Box, I feel to kind of get to where they want to go, they have to have a stronger matchmaking rubric from top to bottom, or just cut the stream shorter and have a musical presentation and then just show fewer fights. Because I do feel that like you and me might be that sicko that's like, okay, let's watch a guy. We know it's not top level boxing, but I do think that they maybe need to, and now I'm being a production person, which is terrible, but I do think they need to rethink how they package a Country Box, because I think there's an image out there that's a little too goofy, and that some of the matchups are just kind of quirky and odd, and that it doesn't represent world-class boxing. And if Mayweather Promotions is going to be affiliated with them, I do think that they should try to move more towards world-class.
Yeah, I mean, one of the shows that I saw down there, Oliver McCall was the headliner. Oliver McCall, who is now, I think, at this point 60. Uh, you know, he actually surprisingly didn't look as bad as I thought he might. But But if that's your headliner, and I happened to run into the guy he was fighting on my flight of, as I mentioned earlier, David Benavidez, on my flight back from Vegas for his last fight when he fought Morrell. The guy walks by me, and I'm talking to the guy next to me in my seat about country box, and the guy walks by and he stops and he goes, "That's me." I said, "What do you mean that's you?" He goes, "That's me. I'm fighting Oliver McCall on Tuesday." I was like, "You're kidding me." So I caught up with him later, but yeah, I mean, if those are your top fights, uh, you're not selling the kind of product that I think the mainstream fight fan is really interested in. But I do wonder if there are enough places, if there are enough, I don't mean venues, but I mean enough platforms for uh, club fighters around the country, and up and comers for people that you're trying to develop that are outside of, like, say, Southern California, sort of the traditional, you know, strongholds. Um, if boxing is going to thrive, I think there need to be places where some of these club shows do well, and there's an interest, and that they can continue to give up and coming fighters places to you know develop and fail and start over, and um, it'll just it's just I think right now we're seeing at the top level what's happening with boxing. you know it's dying on the vine a little bit. If it happens at the lower levels as well, if it gets any worse, I don't know what we're going to be talking about 10 years from now.
I think, to summarize what I'm seeing, and to try to contextualize your words, which is horrible, is it feels like we got two paths in world-class boxing right now. We got millionaire fighters that only fight other millionaire fighters, which is like Ryan Garcia, Conor Benn, whatever. They only fight the guys they deem worthy, Devin Haney, etc., Shakur. And like, it seems like you have to really win a title and be exciting and talk crap to even try to enter that sphere. And then you guys like Raymond Muratalla, who have the accomplishments but don't seem to get the opportunities to fight those type of guys unless they move up weight classes, have some disadvantage, whatever. And I think that now trickles down to the contenders, where you look at middleweight. It's a pretty good division, despite what anyone says. The problem is Janibek never fought, Carlos Adames doesn't fight, and Erislandy Lara doesn't fight. So you have Troy Isley, Aaron McKenna, our guy Yolani Hernandez, who's fighting this weekend, Yo-Yo Hernandez, Amari Jones, and a few other guys, really good fighters. They don't fight anybody because they're waiting for the chance to win a title. So then the guys below them aren't fighting anybody. And then we get to the club shows. If there's fewer club shows, then the club shows are probably going to ask more of the fighters to sell tickets because there's more of a premium on developing your fighter. And we just have a sport that is just not putting together compelling fights from start to finish.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think it's a problem that country box isn't going to solve on its own, and neither are we. But speaking of, you mentioned the fights not being made at middleweight. We're going to start a new segment here on the podcast where we're going to talk about the best fights that can be made at each division, and we're just going to kind of randomly pick one. And this week, we're going to go with welterweight, 147. And we're going to pick our top 3 fights that can be made right now. And we're going to start with Rohan Polanco versus Tiger Johnson. And Lukey, we just kind of pulled these out pretty quickly, but you kind of came up with what your thoughts were on them. You seem to have them right at the top of mind. So tell me why you like it.
I mean, well, I'm a degenerate boxing loser unapologetically. So these are the type of things I sit and think about. Like, I feel like if I liked basketball, I'd do Trade Machine all the time. I think about matchups that I want to see. Tiger Johnson and Rohan Polanco, I believe, fought in the 2020 Olympics. They were different countries. Obviously, Tiger was for the U.S. I believe Rohan Polanco is a Dominican Republic fighter. They've been on a parallel track on top-ranked cards. And Polanco is perceived as a power puncher, a knockout guy. Tiger Johnson has had knockouts, but I think people look at him as more of a pure boxer. They've basically come up during the same period and they've gotten to the same spot. They're both looking to land a title fight. I think it's the perfect stylistic matchup for a true title eliminator. And I think it also doesn't hurt the loser, because these are the type of fights that you really find out who's ready to go to that next level. But the guy that loses this can really learn from the loss. So I think that we need to normalize fights like this leading to championship opportunities. So I think that would be a great thing. Pay these guys, put them in a main event, make it an eliminator, make it an interim title fight. And I think it really elevates someone to becoming a guy who's worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to kind of what we were talking about, seeing that log jam in other divisions where guys aren't fighting. Let's, like you said, let's normalize. Let's get rid of the O factor that our buddy Mayweather sadly built up to way too much fanfare. Number two on our list of welterweight fights that we'd like to see: Keyshawn Davis versus Brian Norman Jr. What do you got for us, Lukey?
Well, I think that something I'm drawn to, and I'm not sure how you feel about this, Jason, but given that we get along so good, you probably feel the same. I love a spiritual opposite fight. And Norman is the spiritual opposite of Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis can be corny. He can be a little annoying. He can be a little vocal. Norman, if anything, feels like he's from a different generation. He's got like an aw shucks about him. He's definitely not soft, but there's like more of a, I'm not from this era. I'm not a social media guy. I'm a real tough man. I'm going to fight you. And just a year ago, people were wondering, is he the best welterweight in the world? He loses to Devin Haney. He's changed his coach. He's with Ronnie Shields. He got rid of his dad as the lead voice. And Keyshawn Davis, keeps moving up these weight classes, and we can't understand why. And he just missed out on a Devin Haney fight. So if he wants to announce himself as a welterweight contender, I know he's linked possibly to fighting Jack Catterall, but I personally would be more interested in seeing him fight Brian Norman Jr., because it's a comparable opponent to Devin Haney, but there's also an inherent toughness about Norman that I want to see how Davis answers, and they're around the same age range. And honestly, as a pro, Norman has accomplished more as a pro so far, I believe. So I think it's just an interesting matchup, from spiritual opposites to the lead up to the fights to just a compelling matchup between two punchers.
Yeah, I love it. And I think at this stage, we'd like to see Keyshawn Davis in with anybody at this point. Ideally at a weight that he's actually in shape at.
Just not an excuse. I think that, like with Keyshawn, there's a lot of, the thing with him that I think annoys a lot of older people, myself included, is you don't hear a lot of accountability from Keyshawn.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, not to go down the Gen Z rabbit hole or the millennials or any of that stuff. I don't even know that it's a generational thing, but it sure seems like there's a lot of that in boxing these days. All right, well, that brings us to our number one welterweight fight that we'd like to see at this stage of the game: Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez Jr. We're going to see Teofimo fight Rolly Romero this weekend. Why do you like that fight so much, Luke?
So many different levels. They both trained in Las Vegas for a good period of time, and there was a rivalry always between the two camps. So I think that's interesting. I also think the strong presence of both of the dads would make a good rivalry, because Teofimo's, I call him Junior Lopez, Teofimo Jr., Lopez Jr., is a character. Bill Haney is a character. They are just as entertaining as their sons. So I think that leads to an interesting fight, because you have two proud dads kind of saying proud dad stuff. I think Teofimo and Devin, in a weird way, are underrated because of their dad's personalities. People don't realize just how good they are as fighters. And I think both guys want to fight each other. I think that it's like a bucket list item for both fighters to face each other at one point. I think they truly, whether they admit it or not, I think they think they're amongst the best of their era. And I think that fight should have happened in 2019, like they were right around the same point. After the Lomachenko fight, I wanted to see Devin versus Tio. So I think getting that fight would be a great capstone to an era that we're slowly leaving. The 2019 to 2027, 2028, because a lot of those guys turn pro so young. I think their eras are going to be a little bit shorter than people realize. So I think that would start to transition us into a new point in boxing.
Yeah, I think it would make for a entertaining fight one way or another, and I think both of those guys could definitely benefit from the other.
Which one do you want to see, Jay? What's your number one?
My number one, I I like the Tiger Johnson fight. I watched him fight Nicholas Flaws down in Orlando. I guess it'd be about a year ago now. He looked great, and I want to see him. I really want to see him in with the best competition to see if he's going to develop the way that I know a lot of his fans think he can. Um, but I really like that Haney Lopez fight too. I mean, I think both of them have something to prove. I mean, Lopez has looked a little up and down. Um, all his, let's just call it, out of the ring sort of turmoil over the years.
Young man voyage.
Yeah, and the problem is he's not a young man anymore. He's still on the voyage, but he he seems to be doing okay with all that, and I don't know if it's a matter of him processing it, and he's gotten to the point where he needs to maturity, all that. And maybe it doesn't affect him in the ring at all. I don't know, but uh, Haney obviously is still sort of trying to get past the Ryan Garcia uh, incident, and I think we've seen that he's come back from it to the extent that it's not the kind of thing that's going to define his career, and yet I think we need to see him in with somebody of Lopez's caliber to really prove like, okay, Haney is as good as we think he can be.
I just think that like Tio to me feels almost depressed. Like he came out so young and he was like so jovial, and it's like life hit him in the face. And then he like tried to swerve and all this. And it just feels like he's had a crash course of a hard life over the last 10 years. He turned pro. And I want to say, let me see. That poster behind me, November 5th, 2016 is when he turned pro, because I think I did his first interview with his dad and they wore the same outfit. And
That checks out.
that you should look at it. It's an amazing piece. It's like it's going to be in the Smithsonian one day. It's just like a piece of art. But to me, it's like he hit this period where like he went through like a divorce of some sort, and then he was like the smartest guy in the room, philosopher, and kind of had some struggles. And then he like hit depression when it was the Jermaine Ortiz fight. He's like saying everyone looks at me as a clown. And now he's kind of like the corporate speak to, where like there's no insight whatsoever, and he's just trying to be like a good ambassador. And like I think all of us are looking and going like, how long will this last before we get something weird? Because it just feels like he's the king of something weird.
Yeah.
And with Haney, it's like he disappeared after that Garcia loss to the point where it was so weird. Like he was out of sight, out of mind. It's kind of hard to forget it. So I think those little things make the fight even more interesting.
Yeah. No, agreed. Well, I just want to point our viewers to some of the work that we've been doing at The Good Fight. Check out our Substack. It's thegoodfight12.substack.com. You can find a bunch of great content writing there every week, including this week, David Greisman's The 10 Count, which is a comprehensive roundup of the weekend boxing. Eric Raskin's got a think piece on size disparities in the ring. And Ryan Sangalia wrote a really cool story that asks, why can't we get more boxing movies in color? That kind of delves into some of the great storylines and narratives in boxing that haven't been explored by Hollywood, which has done to death seemingly every other storyline. But the theme is that more often than not, they're white guys. So Ryan dives into some of the unexplored fighters of color, some of those stories, which are pretty righteous. They're pretty profound. So check that out again at thegoodfight12.substack.com. You'll also get more expertise and analysis from Stephen Breadman Edwards. We've got his daily bread, but we've also added extra bread, which is just a little bit more of what you're looking
Love
for.
it, by the way.
Yeah?
Loving it, man.
Good. Well, be sure to write in. You can write into Stephen directly at thebreadman25@hotmail.com, or you can hit up his Twitter handle at breadmanboxing, or you can send it directly to us at The Good Fight. He will answer your questions every Saturday morning, and he's always looking for good ones, so fire away. In addition, Lukey and I are going to be hitting up another TGF post-fight live stream this Saturday after the Romero Lopez broadcast. And Lily Ulloa will be joining us, one of our wonderful contributors. She'll have boots on the ground in Vegas, and she's going to provide us with some more post-fight insights directly from Vegas, and then any interviews she might be able to round up. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel at The Good Fight 12. Lukey has a number of fighter interviews, Lily as well, and we'll be publishing another one of our boutique videos, the vignettes that we've put out. That's a lot of Lukey's great work. We're going to be putting another one of those.
Lukey should have been on site this week, but Lukey was scared that he was getting sick. So Lukey didn't want to hit the road and get the mega illness, because a 7-hour drive, I need to be at the top of my game, and I'm feeling a little under. So I let the team down just slightly. We would have been on site at both events, but shout out to MVP. They were really great, taking care of me before I could get there, and when I wasn't able to get there, they were really classy. So want to give shout out to MVP, because I think that writers oftentimes are like, the promoters are the enemy, and the promoters will be like, the media is the enemy. So when people are like reasonable and nice, I like to give them their shine, because oftentimes people aren't like, oh man, you were reasonable, Yeah,
it's I know I've had my contentious moments with promoters at times in the past, but it's always better if we're at the very least civil. So, and I don't blame you for that's not taking up that 7-hour one-way drive. That's sick or not. That's not anything.
Hey man, for the good fight, man, it's a good fight. So we got, as my guy Zach in the chat said, the content is awesome, guys. Keep it up. For guys like Zach, I'll make the 7-hour drive. Yeah, that's what we live for.
Thanks, Zach, because we're trying to hold it together here, and anytime we hear from you guys, and we don't always get, it's not always positive feedback, but whatever you guys have for us helps us kind of point it in the direction it needs to go. So thank you to Harden DR, to Fan, to Gail, as always, all you guys for joining us live right now. Subscribe to the channel and to our Substack to support the best independent boxing journalism. We're out here just doing our thing, fighting the good fight, so to speak. But Luke, you got anything else before we check out?
Yeah, I want to put you on the spot. Who you got, Teofimo or Rolly? Let's go viral.
To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't given it much thought. I'm going to say Teo. I'm going to say Teo comes in. I think Detloff made a Twitter joke about the interview that Teo's dad gave, talking about all the stuff he was up to, but now he's better. And Detloff kind of said, like, put your bets in for Raleigh. I actually think Junior is going to be on his game. I think he's figured some things out. And Rolly, as we know, Rolly's a good fighter, but as we know, he's got some holes. And I think if you just go talent to talent, I think Lopez has him beat. How about you?
I mean, the DAZN deal should motivate Teofimo because like he just signed a deal. I'm gonna go draw. I
Draw.
think this fight screams of a draw to me.
Okay.
How's that?
Well, I should have known you'd come up with something
Contrarian?
wily. I mean, are we getting? What are we talking about? Like Fan Man flies in, or
No, I mean, I just think that like okay, I think that in 2017 they sparred, and I believe Teo got was doing better at that time. Teo's not the same fighter from like 2017, 2018. I think that Rolly knows who he is, and that's a really dangerous fighter to fight because he's not gonna he knows he hits hard and he knows he has to keep a certain range of distance. And I compare him, this is gonna sound so dumb. Oh man, I hope you laugh. I think he fights like a poor man's Arislandi Lara that's orthodox because he hits really hard, and then if you don't charge in, he'll just score points on you. So Lara's more technical.
Orthodox Arislandi Lara.
Yeah, because Lara's like move is a straight left hand, and if you break the line, he'll knock you out. Yeah. But if you don't break the line, he'll just touch you all night. And Rolly is kind of like, okay, he's got this big missile, and if you just stay at your spot, it'll just touch and score points. Okay. Teo's more dynamic in turns, but he sometimes is vulnerable because he exchanges. I think Teo is like the more naturally gifted of the two, but I think they're both going to go to dark places in this fight because I think it's going to be harder for Teo than he thinks, potentially, because he's moving up a weight class. He's going to welterweight, and I don't think he ever really felt comfortable at junior welterweight. He never really had that stellar performance. He had two good performances, Josh Taylor, and he had a good performance against Arnold Barbosa. Welterweight's a different animal. I think there's a different physicality. I think Teo will probably finish the fight strong and start to figure things out. But I wouldn't be surprised if this fight looks like Teo versus Lomachenko with Rolly as Teo, because I think that there's going to be an adjustment period with Teo being the smaller fighter first or getting adapted to the weight. I think to me, moving to welterweight is the big story for Rolly or for Teo. I keep getting their names confused.
All right. Well, let's see how it plays out. I mean, you're threading the needle with the draw, but
wouldn't that be sick if it happens?
I mean, it's the beauty of these things is we can make proclamations and everybody will forget about them by Sunday.
Not the fighters.
But we're going to remind you if it's a draw where you heard it first.
What about the I want to say gimmick infringement. If anyone compares Rolly to Arislandi Lara, that's a gimmick infringement on my part because no one else would make that comparison. If people start on Sunday saying that, bro, can they just say we heard that on The Good Fight and you can get a subscription with this information? Can we just say that, please?
Is there such a thing as a gimmick infringement lawyer?
I think so. I think it's part of your YouTube account. There's a gimmick infringement thing. You go in there and there's gimmick infringement. And if you violate the gimmick infringement, you have to code our friggin' link with the Good Fight and how to subscribe. And if you don't do it, you get a strike on your channel or something. It's very simple.
I mean, you convinced me. I'm there. Real quick, Gail has a question here. She says, I interviewed Teo yesterday and asked him about being the odds maker's favorite against the champion. He claimed he doesn't pay attention. Do we believe this? I don't know. It seems like these guys are extremely online nowadays. I don't know that anybody can avoid hearing, when you're the dog, when you're the favored fighter. I don't know. What do you think, Lukey?
Answer: no, I don't believe it because everyone's hyper aware of that stuff. It reminds me of when Robert Guerrero did a media workout for the Keith Thurman fight 11 years ago. And I asked him, hey, would you ever fight Errol Spence? And he looked at me and said, I've never heard of him. I think it's about the same. I've never heard of him as the odds. Like when he said that, I was like, I think that's just more so a casual insult that he's not at the level he's at. And I think that Tio is doing it in a polite way of saying, nah, man, I don't know I'm the favorite. But if he wasn't the favorite, I think he'd bring up the fact that people are wrong that
Yeah,
he isn't the
yeah,
favorite. So
yeah.
I think it's like a fake humble way of being like, oh no, I don't pay attention to that stuff. But if he was the underdog, I think he'd be like, man, they got it all wrong, and I'm gonna silence the haters and stuff. So that's probably too much. The one I'm excited. There's two fights on this undercard that I'm excited about. I'm excited about this Lenny Hernandez guy because I think he could be really good or he could be like really mid, and I'm not sure which one he is. And I love fighters where I have no idea how good they are. And he's fighting our guy from Pro Box TV, Francisco Veron, who I think will take him 10 rounds. If he stops him, I think that's a statement. But I just wanted to throw this in at the end. Israel Mercado, the only fighter to do a hard workout where he busted a sweat. You got to cheer for guys like that because the media workouts now suck. The guys don't tend to do a workout. They don't give the fans much. They don't give the media much. It's almost like, ah, man, we showed up. You're just trying to ruin my day. Here's my
They
guy,
don't even
Bad
get out
Ways
of their
Mercado.
jackets sometimes.
That's what I'm talking about. We don't even get to see any skin or anything, right? And then here's Bad Ways Mercado goes in there, thumping the pads, really doing it, getting some pro photos, answering questions. He's taking on 2025 boxing scene prospect of the year, Carlos Uteria, who won the WBC Grand Prix tournament. I think it's a real fight. And to me, this might sound goofy. If you work that hard at a media workout, it kind of shows a level of toughness because you're obviously cutting weight and you're still able to put the poker face on and go through the motion. So to me, I thought that was so far the coolest moment of fight week was Israel Badways Mercado giving the fans a real workout and savoring the moment while everyone else was like, let me do some half-ass shadow boxing, just say like random things that sound right and then wave to the cameras and probably not even get any good video clips to promote the fight. So that was like my big takeaway.
Well, we're gonna find you a hat. We're gonna get you a red hat that says "Make media workouts great again."
Or I just need a cap that says media so I can put my media hat on occasionally. When I feel like I want to have a hot take, I put the media cap on and then I take it off for just casual thoughts. But I mean, when Nicholas Walters fought Nonito Donaire, one of the most intimidating things I ever saw in my life, because at the time, Nonito was like a superstar from my area and he's one of the biggest fighters. He had just won Boxer of the Year. So I traveled down there to see the fight. And the Drake song Starting from the Bottom was playing. I remember this because that's how iconic this media workout was. And Nicholas Walters basically did a sparring session with mitts. You can look it up. It's one of the hardest, most intense workouts I've ever seen. And it set a tone where it's like, oh man, I want to see this fight. And I remember Selchuk Aydin doing the same thing, Robert Guerrero doing the same thing. And now it's like, I don't know if it's generational. I don't know what it is, but there's like a level to being a pay-per-view level boxer or even on a certain stage where you're like, nah, I'm too good for that. So I'm going to do the bare minimum because it shows that I'm successful. And it kind of irks me because as a fan, I love that grind.
Yeah, and I think there's something to the try hard guy issue. I think if you put in too much effort, you can't be cool. It's corny somehow. That's definitely, I think, a generational thing, but it goes against everything we know about boxing. So it's an interesting dynamic.
If I did a media workout, Jason, how do you think my media workout would look? I'd do a sick ass media workout. I'd do whatever I was doing in the gym better than other people. And I'd be looking good and I'd try to make it memorable because I know that whatever media came is probably not getting paid. So I want to give them something good. And the fans that come out, I want each and every one of them to remember my name and shit. I'd probably bring some t-shirts with me and give them out to people so they could walk around the area with a Team Lukey shirt.
And that's the thing now. Everything is videotaped. Whenever there's an opportunity for something like that, I say videotaped. Like it's 30 years ago. Everybody's got a camera phone, and that's an opportunity. I mean, I don't care how much of a throwaway it seems to be. That's an opportunity to engage with fans, show how serious you are. If nothing else, just make it a good look. And obviously in boxing, as much as these guys yap at each other and are trying to sell fights nowadays. It's like, why don't you sell your effort, sell yourself as a fighter, sell your seriousness about your approach.
I don't think people understand how talented these fighters are. And sometimes I think they take their ability for granted. And it's like I took my mom to a media workout with Tyson Fury, and to this day she still remembers how big he is and how fast he moves. And it's like these media workouts, I fully like look at history. Tommy Hearns, some of his iconic moments to me are watching old videos of the media workouts. Some of the greatest, Muhammad Ali, remember that camp he had, the Ali, the training camp and the media workout for people that love this sport so much is a big deal. And it just bothers me. It's like it almost, you know what it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong for thinking this. It almost feels like they don't love the history of the sport and it's just a hustle. And there's a part of me that's about preserving boxing and carrying on to tradition. And then like when people just reject that, it kind of bothers me.
Well, even if they're not actively rejecting it seems that they're not connected to it.
Yeah. And it's like those people were like, when I was depressed, like Tommy Hearns, Mike Tyson, all those figures, Donald Curry, Terry Norris, these were like the superheroes. And when I could get a VHS tape of a media workout, it's like, oh my God, I got a new Superman episode, right? And it's like when you see some, like, I guess selfishly, I think about, will this sport grow? And when people don't do those type of things, that's what got me into the sport, was watching these media workouts and going, man, I want to work hard so one day I could be in a gym like that or be in a ring like that and do the moves like those guys. It's so impressive. In the community and having people wearing jackets like me, like it really did something. And just to think that like there's a generation that's like, that looks cool, but I'd rather see the fight. It feels like we're losing some of the ritualistic nature of boxing from these big fights. Like I said it on Twitter, or X, I should say, we've lost the hotel check-in. And I get that that's not a big deal to some people,
Yeah.
but we're cutting down on our events, man. We're cutting down on what makes a big.
Yeah, the grand arrivals are less and less a thing than they used to be, and those were fun. They were Zach says, he's at MGM right now, and there really isn't anything fight related for fans to do. Says the least they could do is a good workout. Yeah, I mean, it seems like some of those things are going away, and whether it's ritual, whether it's tradition, not every tradition, uh, is built to last, but some of these things, we talk about kind of the pomp and circumstance around, or the pomp around boxing and how things can be inflated in some cases. But I mean, I always go back to, and I remember watching it in the moment and thinking how ridiculous it was. But I still have like, that's the first thing I go to. Tyson Fury doing his walkout, and he's got the red, white, and blue, the top hat. He's got the Apollo Creed get up, and I think if I remember right, he had James Brown. He played Coming or Living in America. Walked into it, if I remember correctly. But I just remember thinking how silly he looked. But at the same time, like those are the moments that stick with you, and it's what brings a lot of us back. And if you just start paring some of those things away, whether it's for costs or because it's a pain to pull off, it just this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like you've got to give fans a reason to show up, and if it's whether it's novelty fights, whether it's walkouts, whether it's workouts, you're going to lose a sport if you don't cater to the fans in one way or another.
I think this country, not to get political, but this will probably be my last segment, is losing sense of the everyday man, like the everyday blue collar guy, or the everyday man who's just getting by is getting lost in the sand. It's like, I don't want my boxing to lose sight of the everyday person too. You save up all year to go on a vacation for a big Vegas fight, and then you get a phoned in media workout. You can't go to the press conference. You don't get to meet a fighter. Look, and me and Jason were out there, and anyone's a fan of the good fight, you could drink a beer with us. We might even do a meetup. you know? And it's like, it just rubs me the wrong way that boxing doesn't always love its fans the way that they love the sport. The fans deserve a little bit more at times. I guess I'm just angry on the fans' behalf, whether I should or I shouldn't be, because it feels like an event like this. If you're going to pay the money and go out, you deserve a effing event.
Yeah, and it's something we go back to a lot, but I think it's so hard to be a fan of boxing today. I mean, trying to track down where to watch the fights, pay your streaming services, pay your pay-per-view on top of that. God forbid you want to go actually see a fight, be there for fight week and experience all those things that it comes with. You're lucky if you get a good fight at the end of it. But the least you can do if you're, the powers that be in boxing is provide some extra, uh, if you want to call them perks, whatever. But making, like you said, making an event. I agree.
Yep.
Real quickly, Gail says check-ins are impractical in the social media era. Even if they're fake, people are going to stalk the rooms. Can't do it anymore for security reasons. That's fair. I would like to see though some version of that, and I'd like to see boxing iterate more ideas in general. Like try something new. I'm the guy who will endlessly make fun of the ref cam that our guy. Oh shoot!
Oh, Joe Cortez.
No, not Joe Cortez. God, I can't believe I don't have his name at the top of my
Firm
head.
but fair, right?
No. It's killing me. Anyway, I'm the guy who makes fun of the ref cam, but try it. Why not? Give it a shot. See if it works. People may love it. People may hate it. It's like the old NHL, the blue puck or whatever it was that they used to lit up. Jack Reese. There you go. Thank you, Gail. Jack Reese. Ref cam.
What about a Legends panel? We used to get Legends panel. It's like, why not have like the great welterweights of the PBC? Thurman, Spence, Danny Garcia, it's a couple other guys, and they could just like reflect on this fight. Like, why not do that on a Thursday or a Friday night?
Well, you would think that they could organize something like that easily enough because if you package it with a an autograph signing session, a lot of these guys come out for that stuff anyway. They whatever boxing con or some version of that. They'll do it locally in some cases. But if what would it take to fly out, like you said, four old fighters, put them up in the hotel for the week, uh, pay that bill, but then give back by allowing them to earn off of signing, but then also like, I mean, who's not going to come out if you've got so give me an example of like four what you said PBC fighters. Maybe PBC is not the best example.
Yeah, like PBC, like let's do Spence, Thurman, and two other guys, and they meet you at like the lobby, like what is it, Tap Sports Bar or something, or you set up a stage, and it's like you got to spend $40, and they're going to be on stage, and there's going to be an MC, and they're just going to like reminisce about the old times, and maybe you can give them a drink or two, so they start getting loose, they tell the never before stories. And I think it would be interesting if you got the trainers there. Like Dan Birmingham's a guy that I never really got to hear stories from. Angel Garcia I enjoyed. So like you could have the welterweights, and then you could have like the trainers come out and give their things.
Well,
but to me,
we talk about Hall of Fame weekend and how kind of magical that is. It seems like it would be easy enough to replicate that on a much smaller scale in a situation like what you're describing.
Yeah, this is what frustrates me is I'm going to watch the press conference when we're done with this because I've finished my day. And like it's just going to probably feel like any other fight week, but this is an $80 fight essentially. And it's like these fights, like I remember when Wilder and Fury fought, albeit it's a different time, it felt a little magical. It felt like you don't want to miss this or else you're going to miss out on something. This feels like a fight week with a paywall attached. And I don't want to lose sight of that. That I don't want this to become normal because the sport won't grow. Because if this is what's being presented, a normal fight week behind a paywall, there's going to be more people that say, I'll see the next one. And that's how people learn to not watch boxing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it just seems that we don't have enough fights to go around today, let alone good fights that aren't pay-per-view. Again, I go back to the same phrase, kind of dying on the vine. And I mean, I know we hear it all the time. Boxing is dead. Boxing has been dead for years and decades now. Um, it's still alive and kicking, but at some point, fans just are going to go away. People are going to get tired of spending their money. People are going to stop paying attention. It's just there just isn't, if there aren't enough fights to sort of, chop it up over at the barbershop. You and I get on here and do a podcast. I mean, there are definitely some weeks where I feel like we're struggling to find things to talk about. Um, I don't think it used to be that way. There will always seem to be something going on.
I think the deeper issue is the Saudis put a lot of money into the sport, and that same money isn't being put into the sport. And now we're hitting this point where people are realizing the same investment isn't being made. And there's like a huge shift because it's like, oh, we have to finance things again. And I think that's part of the problem is like, where is the sport going? Is Zuffa going to consolidate everything? Are there just going to be fewer fights because promoters started getting too comfortable with letting other third-party entities finance their fights? What's the future of DAZN, et cetera, et cetera? But I think that the major thing is like we never have seen no other sports entity basically just let the Saudis run their sport for a few years. And now they're not as involved. And I think that's the story of boxing right now is, what's life after like huge investment?
Yeah, it's the old, I forget what the analogy
Pumping
is.
up.
The ant farm that you shake up and it's like that's the kind of what Turkey's done, and you walk away and then okay, what happens now? It's chaos. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where everything lands. I don't have a lot of faith in the people involved doing what's best for boxing. We've seen this over and over where boxing's powers that be always serve themselves before the sport. Sometimes it works out for boxing, oftentimes it doesn't. But I just don't think that the sport is in a state at this stage that it can take much more abuse. But we'll see. We'll have to see how it turns out. I think.
So we'll be back next week.
Yeah, right.
To tell you this.
Hopefully, we'll be here a week from now. We'll find out. But I guess we'll leave it there then for today. And that'll do it for us at the Good Fight Podcast. Thank you all for joining and for listening. We will see you at the fights.